1636. Providence. That's what it's named. And somehow the name fits. The flame of freedom has to be rekindled from time to time, but it burns brightly here in Providence. Up in Boston, a school called Harvard College is founded. New ideas about self-rule are debated there. In Plymouth, the Pilgrims help wounded soldiers in need with pensions, and they put into practice what they preach about freedom to choose what one believes. The seeds of freedom in the shaping of America in 1636.
You know, you're about to witness a serious injury, not with broken bones or cuts and bruises. This is a cold injury called hypothermia. Hypothermia is the loss of body heat brought on by cold or even cool conditions, and it's dangerous. If you're swimming in cool water, or hiking in high altitudes, or even in a strong cool wind, you can get hypothermia. Be careful, even in mild temperatures.
Since ancient times, farmers have sought to bring water to the land when rainfall fails. Americans in the 1930s reacted to the Dust Bowl disaster with ambitious new irrigation projects to bring water to arid lands in the American West. It was a dream as old as agriculture and as new as America. The dream making the desert bloom.
When you're exercising in heat and humidity, you can get heat cramps, tense, tight muscles, or even heat exhaustion with dizziness, nausea, a racing pulse. If you feel any of these symptoms, lie down in the shade. For heat cramps, massage your cramped muscles. For heat exhaustion, raise your feet and slowly drink cool water. It's the right way to get through a hot workout.
Coming up on the next edition of Pacific Report, we'll travel to Misawa Air Base, Japan, where flight line crews recently trained on fighter turn-and-burns called integrated combat turns. And when Lieutenant General Skip Hall visits one of the bases in his 5th Air Force Command, it usually requires a flight and lots of fanfare. We'll show you how those visits work when he visits the base that houses his command. Join us for these stories, plus your Pacific weather forecast tonight on Pacific Report.
I have diabetes.
I know it can lead to more serious health problems.
So I'm taking control of what I eat.
I'm getting regular exercise.
I'm taking my medicine and testing my blood sugar.
Controlling my diabetes makes a huge difference.
I feel better.
I have more energy and peace of mind.
I'm going to be around for my family, for my friends.
For life.
Control your diabetes. For life. Call to find out how.
General Hospital will continue on ABC.
The state of Wyoming got its name from a beautiful valley nearly 2,000 miles away. The story begins in northeastern Pennsylvania, where Algonquins had named the valley Michiwaoming, meaning the end of the plains, or at the big plains. In English, the word was shortened and became Wyoming. In the mid-1800s, a Scottish poet wrote a very popular poem about this valley called Gertrude of Wyoming. The name became very well known and was considered quite beautiful. When a new territory was being created from the Dakota Territory in 1868, a U.S. congressman originally from Wyoming Valley, Pennsylvania, proposed the name Wyoming for the new territory. Others wanted to name it Lincoln in honor of the recently assassinated president. But Wyoming prevailed as the name of the territory, and later the state. Wyoming, a beautiful place at the end of the plains.
Primetime Tuesday. Touched by an Angel starts your evening. Then, oh baby, Arnold Schwarzenegger is pregnant. Don't miss the AFN Tuesday movie, Junior. AFN tonight.
If you live in government quarters, you can get stripes delivered right to your home. For information on home delivery, look for the phone number on the masthead inside every issue.
In Washington, D.C. stands the memorial to Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States. Visitors to the monument honor the memory of the man who led America through the long trial of civil war. At his death, the divided nation had been reunited. 4 million slaves had been freed, and work was underway on a great railroad to span the continent. At the dedication of the Gettysburg Battlefield Cemetery, Lincoln made a speech in which he said, "The world will little note nor long remember what we say here." In fact, the words of the Gettysburg Address still inspire Americans well over a century later, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
You ask them how school's going, they say, okay. You ask them how their friends are, they say, okay. You ask them how their social life is doing, they say, okay. You ask them if they could please say something besides okay, they say, okay. So, it's not easy talking to your kids, okay? But just knowing that you care enough to ask makes kids feel, well, okay.
New Amsterdam. It's 1664, and out on Hempstead Plains, hooves pound the turf. Over in Raleigh, Massachusetts, there's a violin priced at a bargain, 10 shillings. Nathaniel Rogers, being of sound mind, puts it in his will. He leaves the first musical instrument on record in the colonies to his next of kin. Biggest news of all, the property hereabouts is changing hands again. Goodbye to the Dutch, hello to the English. New Amsterdam is no more in 1664. It's now New York in the shaping of America.
Stay tuned for scenes from the next General Hospital.
If there's a boat out there and he's stranded, that's us. We're out there, we're doing a job.
Now that's a resume.
The year was 1862. The Civil War was in its second year with bloody battles at Shiloh, Antietam, and Fredericksburg. At sea, the first battle between ironclad ships, the Monitor and the Virginia, took place near Norfolk, Virginia. The vision of both captains was obscured by gunsmoke, and both left the encounter thinking they'd won. Congress was also busy. They passed the Pension Act, which provided pensions to servicemen disabled in the line of duty. Out in the ranks, the unit badge evolved when the men of the 3rd Division, 3rd Corps, began wearing a piece of scarlet cloth on their uniforms. That same year, a civilian agency called the Sanitary Commission began recruiting female nurses to care for Union soldiers. Volunteers had to be over 30 and of good moral standards. All part of serving our country in 1862.
On the next General Hospital.
Then Thursday.
You're watching AFN Pacific, a service of AFRTS.
This spot lies only a few miles from our bustling nation's capital, and it is one of Washington's best-kept little secrets. Its name is Great Falls. Created by the rushing waters of the Potomac River, the falls has produced one of the region's most diverse and fragile ecosystems. The barrens of rock bed shaved by rushing waters, the calmer ponds of the higher plateaus, the lush green carpet of the river's floodplain, all create a web of natural harmony, supporting myriad species of plants and animals. Bemoaned in the past for blocking river commerce to Washington, Great Falls is admired today as one of Washington's most beautiful sights.
Do trees think? Can plant life feel? Do they fear fire? If they do, they're not alone. More people are moving to our forests, so be careful with fire. You could hurt a lot more than trees.
Kim Evans has a rather unique approach to the game of golf.
I want to see how many of you think that you can hit this. Golf is about skill and technique and even a little science. How many of you think you can hit a tennis ball? But mainly, it's about confidence and fun. Yes. Can you really hit a golf ball? So I tell all my students to remember just one lesson. It's a game. Have a ball.
PGA professionals like Kim Evans are making golf a better game.
15 years ago, a big wheel came to town.
Hey, that was great. Can I get a deal on 1,000 of them?
Let's try out the jet skis tomorrow.
Wheel of Fortune, bigger cash and prizes. Take a spin.
Sister, Sister, AFN Fridays. You're watching AFN Pacific, a service of AFRTS.
A brand new century and a year, 1701, that has its ups and downs. Of course, what looks up and what looks topsy-turvy depends on who's doing the looking. A Frenchman, for one, looks at the Great Lakes and settles the area. Du toit. That's what Antoine Cadillac calls it. For folks who can afford it, there's a place to go for higher education besides Harvard. This school's called Yale. Imagine this. In Albany, there are women sitting on a jury. That's new in 1701. About time, too. Time for a best-selling book, Death Made Easy and Happy, that relates the life and times in the colonies as some folks see them. This book makes its author, Cotton Mather, famous. In 1701.
The name Alabama first occurs in the chronicles of Hernando de Soto's expedition of 1540. De Soto, a Spanish explorer, was searching for gold in the valleys of present-day Alabama. While in this region, De Soto met members of the Alabamu tribe. Their name was derived from the Choctaw words alba and amo, meaning plant gatherers. The Spanish shaped the word to fit their own language and began to call the river that flowed through the valley the Alabama. Eventually, they applied this name to the entire territory. In 1817, the territory of Alabama was officially separated from the state of Mississippi. Later, when it became a state, the name Alabama was retained. Alabama, land of the plant gatherers.
Only Congress can make federal laws, but the President may issue orders to executive agencies that have the force of law. In 1948, President Truman issued an executive order that ended racial discrimination in the U.S. military and federal employment. Throughout history, presidents have issued more than 12,000 executive orders, many having a great impact on the nation. The executive order, an important instrument for implementing presidential policy.
ready for the game?
About.
What if you couldn't pick up your keys or reach a light switch?
Harold, you want wheat or rye bread?
I think I'll take rye.
Let's go get the bread.
Canine Companions for Independence provides highly trained dogs that help make independent living a reality for people with disabilities. You know what? Could I have wheat bread instead?
Canine Companions for Independence.
Men, this is a dangerous mission. General Beauregard insists that all volunteers know the facts. 30 men have gone down in just testing this craft, including her namesake, H.L. Hunley.
I've heard some call her the Floating Coffin.
Lieutenant Dixon, sir, what makes you think that this tin can sink a warship?
Well, I helped build her. I know we can do it. Look. She floats 3 inches underwater, invisible to the northern blockade.
But how do we breathe?
Well, there's an airbox up here fitted with a shaft.
How long can we stay down?
Well, the record is 2 hours, 35 minutes.
The world's first military submarine was built from an old boiler cut in half. Her killing weapon was a torpedo hooked to the bow. One night in 1863, the tiny Hunley sank the USS Housatonic, a 1,200-ton warship in Charleston Harbor. But the sub and her crew were also lost. Submarine warfare, another military first from the Civil War.
Primetime Tuesday. Touched by an Angel starts your evening. Then, oh baby, Arnold Schwarzenegger is pregnant. Don't miss the AFN Tuesday movie, Junior, AFN Tonight.